The sky flickered like it had forgotten how to behave properly. A brief glitch smeared across the night above the quiet street, and he stopped walking not because he understood what he was seeing, but because his brain politely refused to process it. He blinked once, twice, as if that might fix reality the way it sometimes fixed phone screens. But the distortion only deepened, folding inward like invisible hands were crumpling space itself. Naturally, his first thought was that he was too tired and possibly dying, which felt unfair considering he hadn't even had dinner yet. Then she stepped out of it. Not fell, not appeared. Stepped, like she had simply taken a wrong turn between worlds and ended up here instead of wherever she had intended to go. She staggered slightly, catching herself with a grace that didn't match her confusion. And for a moment he just stared, caught between concern and the very real possibility that approaching her might somehow make things worse. She looked human mostly. Her posture, her face, even the faint irritation in her expression all felt familiar. But her ears, long, elegant, subtly curved, broke the illusion just enough to make his brain file her under definitely not from around here. Okay, he muttered to himself. Either I help, or I pretend I didn't see an interdimensional event and go home to eat cereal like a coward. He chose help, which already felt like a questionable life decision. Hey, he said, raising a hand in what he hoped was a non-threatening gesture. Are you, lost? Because this is not a great place to teleport into. Rent is high. She turned toward him slowly, her gaze locking onto his with unsettling precision. It felt less like she was looking at him and more like she was reading him, not in a metaphorical way. In a deeply uncomfortable, please stop scanning my soul like it's a QR code kind of way. You perceived the distortion, she said, her voice carrying a faint echo like the sentence had been spoken twice in slightly different versions of reality. Yeah, he replied. Hard to miss, it kind of screamed not normal. She studied him for another long second, then nodded as if confirming something only she understood. Good, that reduces the probability of error. That's comforting, he said, though it absolutely was. She took a step forward and nearly lost her balance again, this time grabbing onto his arm. Her grip was colder than expected, not painfully so, just precise, like her hand had calculated exactly how much pressure to use. You are stable, she murmured. I try, he said. I also recycle. She didn't react to the joke, which he took as a cultural difference and not a personal failure. Up close, the details became harder to ignore. Her eyes held a strange depth, like reflections that didn't belong to this street. Her breathing was slightly off rhythm, as if she hadn't fully synced with Earth's atmosphere yet. And those ears, he tried not to stare, failed immediately, then pretended he had been looking at something behind her. I need temporary alignment, she said, still holding on to him. Your environment will suffice. My environment is a one-bedroom apartment with questionable Wi-Fi, he replied. Just so you know what you're agreeing to. That is irrelevant. Great, he sighed, because it's also a mess. He hesitated only briefly before guiding her down the street, half expecting another tear in reality to open and swallow them both. It didn't. The world remained stubbornly normal, which somehow made everything feel even stranger. Inside his apartment, she released his arm and immediately turned in a slow circle, examining everything with intense focus. The lamp, the table, the very unimpressive couch, each object seemed to demand her full attention. What is this? She asked, picking up a spoon. That's a spoon. For eating. She frowned slightly. Why does nourishment require an intermediary object? He paused. You know what? That's a fair question. I've never trusted soup either. She set the spoon down carefully, as if it might explode if mishandled, then looked back at him with that same piercing focus. I located you for a reason, she said. He let out a small, nervous laugh. I was afraid you were going to say that. You are an anomaly. Yeah, I've been told that before, he said. Usually by teachers. Her expression didn't change. You do not collapse under contradiction. He blinked. I collapse all the time, just internally, very quietly. She stepped closer again, her gaze unwavering. No, you continue. He opened his mouth to argue, then stopped. The air around them felt different now, subtly charged, like something unseen had started paying attention. And for the first time since she appeared, he realized this wasn't just strange. It was the beginning of something that wasn't going to let him go. She moved through his apartment like reality was a puzzle assembled incorrectly, pausing at objects as if they might confess their purpose under pressure. He leaned against the door, watching her with the quiet realization that his life had officially crossed into a category no one had prepared him for. There were no instructions for unexpected alien guest, and he was fairly certain customer support wouldn't help. "You're staring again," he said. "I am observing," she corrected without looking at him. "Your environment is inefficient but adaptive. That's the nicest thing anyone's ever said about my cleaning habits." She ignored that and crouched near the coffee table, her fingers hovering just above its surface. The air shimmered faintly, like heat rising from asphalt, and for a brief second the table seemed to exist in two slightly different positions. He straightened immediately. "Okay," he said, pointing. "That's new. My furniture usually stays in one place unless I trip over it." "Your spatial field is reacting," she replied calmly. "My what is reacting?" She stood, turning toward him again with that same unsettling certainty. "You are." He let out a small laugh that didn't quite commit to being humor. "Right, of course, I'm reacting. Totally normal human activity, happens all the time." "Furniture duplication." "It is not duplication," she said. "It is overlap. Your perception is widening." "That sounds expensive," he muttered. She stepped closer, studying him again, and this time he felt it more clearly, like something brushing against his thoughts, not invasive, just present. It made his skin prickle. "Stop doing that," he said. "I am not doing anything." "Well, something is happening, and I would like to unsubscribe." She tilted her head slightly, those long ears shifting with emotion in a way that made it impossible to forget what she was. "Your cognitive structure allows simultaneous contradiction. You accept incompatible states without rejection. I call that overthinking." "It is more than that." He sighed and ran a hand through his hair. "Look, I'm flattered, I think, but I'm not special. I forget why I walk into rooms. I once tried to unlock my front door with my car key, twice." She watched him closely, then unexpectedly a faint smile touched her lips. It was small, almost experimental, like she was trying on the expression. "That supports my assessment," she said. "How does that support anything?" "You persist despite inefficiency." "Wow," he said dryly. "I feel incredibly honored." The lights flickered. Both of them froze, though for very different reasons. He glanced up at the ceiling, already preparing to blame the wiring, but the flicker didn't behave like a normal electrical issue. It pulsed slow, deliberate, like a heartbeat sinking to something unseen. She closed her eyes briefly, as if listening to a frequency he couldn't hear. "They are searching," she said. He straightened. "They, as in more of you." "Yes." "And that's bad, I'm guessing, because your tone says bad, and not surprise party." "They will not understand you." "That makes two of us," he muttered. She stepped even closer now, close enough that he could see the subtle difference in her eyes again, like reflections from a place that didn't belong to this room. "You must remain within my proximity." He blinked. "That sounds like a rule I wasn't aware I agreed to." "It is necessary." "For what?" She hesitated, and for the first time, that certainty in her expression wavered slightly. "For your continuity." He stared at her. "My continuity." "Yes, that sounds like something I would like to keep." "Then stay near me." He exhaled slowly, glancing around his apartment as if it might offer a logical explanation. It didn't. It offered a slightly crooked lamp and a spoon he was now suspicious of. "All right," he said finally. "Fine, I'll stay near the mysterious alien who bends space and insults my furniture." "I did not insult it." "You implied it was inefficient. That's basically the same thing." Another flicker passed through the room, stronger this time. The air tightened, pressure building in a way that made his ears pop slightly. She reached for his hand without warning. "Hey," he started, but stopped as soon as their skin touched. The world didn't shift dramatically. There was no explosion, no flash. Just a quiet, undeniable change, like a door opening somewhere deep inside his mind. Thoughts aligned in strange ways, connections forming faster than he could track. He inhaled sharply. "Okay, I definitely felt that." "Yes," she said softly. "Now they will feel you too." His eyes widened. "That doesn't sound better." "It is not," she replied. He let out a breath, half laugh, half panic. "Great. So just to summarize, aliens are coming, my brain is doing things it shouldn't, and I can't even blame this on lack of sleep." She looked at him again, that small, almost human smile returning. "You are handling this well." "I'm not," he said immediately. "I'm just too confused to scream." "Effective strategy." Another pulse moved through the room, stronger than before. And this time he knew without being told. Something out there had noticed him. The pressure in the room didn't build all at once. It tightened slowly, like reality itself was deciding whether to stay or leave. He kept hold of her hand, not because he understood what it did, but because letting go suddenly felt like a terrible idea, the kind people regret in documentaries. So, he said, forcing a thin smile, on a scale from 1 to we're doomed, where are we? She didn't answer immediately. Her focus had shifted somewhere beyond the walls, beyond the city, like she was listening to something vast and approaching. They have aligned with your signal. I don't remember sending one, he replied. You exist, that is enough. Great, my biggest achievement is accidentally broadcasting myself to aliens. The air folded again, sharper this time, and the room fractured, not breaking but overlapping like multiple versions of the same space were trying to occupy one place. For a brief second he saw it. Tall silhouettes, elongated forms, watching through layers of reality like observers behind glass. He stiffened. Okay, I see them. I definitely see them. That feels illegal. They are not here physically, she said. They are evaluating. Can I opt out of the evaluation? No. Figures. The presence grew heavier, pressing against his thoughts, probing, not aggressively, but with cold precision. He felt questions forming that weren't his, logic threading through his emotions, trying to separate them. He swallowed, they're sorting things. Yes, she said quietly. They cannot understand contradiction, they will try to remove it. Remove it, he echoed, as in fix me. As in erase what does not conform. He blinked, then let out a short, disbelieving laugh. Wow, I knew being complicated would get me in trouble someday, but this feels excessive. The pressure intensified, and for a moment his thoughts began to slip, doubts flattening, emotions dimming, everything narrowing into something clean, simple, empty. Then he tightened his grip on her hand. No, he said more firmly this time, I like my mess. The sensation faltered slightly. She looked at him, something like urgency and something like hope flickering across her face. You must hold both states, do not resolve them. Hold both, he repeated. Right, easy, like being confident and panicking at the same time. I've trained for this my whole life. The pressure pushed again, harder. He winced but didn't let go. Thoughts collided, fear and humor, logic and instinct, certainty and doubt, and instead of choosing one, he let them exist together. It felt wrong. It felt unstable. It felt like him. I'm scared, he said aloud, voice unsteady. And I'm also weirdly okay. And I don't understand any of this, and I kind of want to make a joke, and I think this is the worst day of my life, but also the most interesting one. The presence hesitated. For the first time, it didn't advance. They are confused, she whispered. Good, he said, it's mutual. The overlapping space flickered violently, the silhouettes distorting as if they couldn't stabilize their observation. The pressure began to fracture, not breaking him, but losing coherence against him. You are disrupting them, she said, a quiet amazement in her voice. I'm finally good at something, he replied, breath shaky. The presence receded slowly, like a tide pulling back, uncertain and incomplete. The weight lifted from the room, the air settling into something that felt normal, or at least close enough. He exhaled deeply, shoulders dropping. Please tell me that means they're gone. They have withdrawn, she said. You are incompatible. He blinked. That might be the nicest rejection I've ever gotten. Silence settled between them, softer now. She didn't let go of his hand immediately. They cannot restore what they have lost, she said after a moment, but you have shown them something they cannot erase. He looked at her, the tension finally easing into something quieter. So, what happens now? Do you go back to your world and tell them I'm a walking problem? A faint smile appeared again, more certain this time. I will tell them you are a solution. He huffed a small laugh. That feels like false advertising. It is accurate, she said. He glanced around his apartment, the same crooked lamp, the same suspicious spoon, and shook his head slightly. You know, a few hours ago, my biggest concern was breakfast. And now, he considered it, then smiled faintly. Now I guess I'm okay not having everything make sense. She studied him one last time, that same deep, searching gaze, but it felt different now. Not like she was analyzing him. Like she understood him. You have changed, she said. Yeah, he replied. I think I stopped trying to fix everything. That is why you are valuable. He chuckled softly. I'm going to put that on a resume somehow. The air shimmered faintly again, softer this time. She stepped back. I must go, she said. He nodded, surprisingly calm. Yeah, figures. A brief pause, then he added. Hey, next time you pick someone to save your civilization, maybe choose someone who owns more than one spoon. That small smile returned. I will consider it. The distortion opened again, quieter, more controlled. She stepped into it. And was gone, the room stilled completely. He stood there for a long moment, then looked down at his hand, flexing his fingers slightly. Okay, he murmured to himself, that happened. He glanced at the spoon on the table, then picked it up, turning it thoughtfully. Still suspicious. But as he set it back down, a faint, almost unnoticeable flicker passed through the air. Subtle, unstable, alive. And this time, he didn't try to explain it. He just smiled. He tried to return to normal the next morning, which immediately failed when he stood in front of his kitchen counter and realized he was staring at the spoon again like it owed him answers. This is your fault, he told it. You started all of this by existing suspiciously. The spoon did not respond, which he found both reassuring and slightly disappointing. He poured cereal, sat down, and attempted to think about ordinary things. Work, bills, whether he had replied to messages he definitely ignored. But his thoughts no longer stayed in neat lines. They branched, overlapped, contradicted themselves, and somehow worked. He could worry about the future while enjoying the present. He could feel uncertainty without trying to crush it into certainty. It was uncomfortable. It was also annoyingly kind of peaceful. Great, he muttered. I've evolved into a philosophical mess. The air shimmered faintly. He froze, then slowly looked up. Okay, if this is round 2, I'd like to request fewer existential threats this time. The shimmer didn't tear open like before. It settled, soft and controlled, forming a familiar distortion. And then she stepped through again, steady this time, no stumble, no confusion. He blinked. You know, most people text before visiting. I calculated that you would be receptive, she said. I just also like warning. A small pause, then she glanced at the spoon. You are still uncertain about that object. It's complicated, he said. We've been through things. She stepped closer, studying him again, but the intensity had changed. It wasn't analysis anymore, it was recognition. You have stabilized the contradiction, she said. I didn't stabilize anything, he replied. I just stopped trying to fix it. That is stabilization. He leaned back slightly, considering that. That feels like cheating. It is efficient. He smiled faintly, careful. You're starting to sound human. I am adapting. He gestured around the apartment. Well, welcome back to the least efficient environment on Earth. It is sufficient. There was a quiet pause, not uncomfortable this time. What happened? He asked with them. They withdrew from direct observation, she said. They cannot process what you represent, but they are reconsidering. He raised an eyebrow, because I confused them. Yes, he let out a soft laugh. That might be my greatest achievement. She tilted her head slightly. It is significant. You introduced instability into a system that rejected it. Sounds like I broke something. You repaired something, she corrected. He exhaled slowly, looking down at his hands. I didn't feel like a solution. You are not a solution, she said. You are a possibility. He glanced up at her. That sounds less stressful. It is more dangerous, she replied calmly. He smiled, figures. Another pause settled between them, lighter now. So, he said, what does that mean for you? I will continue to observe, she said, and learn. From me, yes. He pointed at himself. Just to be clear, I still forget why I walk into rooms. That is part of the data. He laughed quietly. Your civilization is in trouble. A faint smile appeared again, more natural now. It is improving. He stood there for a moment, then nodded. All right, but if you're staying, we need rules. Define them. No scanning my brain without permission. She considered it, accepted. No sudden reality tearing during breakfast. Accepted. And you have to try soup properly at least once. She paused. I will evaluate that condition. Fair enough, he said. The room felt steady, grounded, yet subtly alive in a way it hadn't before. He noticed it now without fear, without needing to explain it away. You're not overwhelmed, she observed. I was, he said. I just stopped trying to make everything make sense immediately. That is growth. He nodded slightly. Yeah, I guess it is. He picked up the spoon again, turned it once, then set it down with a small, decisive motion. Okay, he said, I trust you now. She watched the gesture, then looked back at him. That is a significant development. Don't make it weird, he replied. I am not. You are a little, he said, smiling. She didn't deny it. The air remained calm. No pressure, no distortion beyond the faint, quiet hum of something larger than both of them, but no longer threatening, just present. He leaned back, crossing his arms. You know, my life is never going back to normal. No, she agreed. He thought about that for a moment, then smiled, not nervous this time, not forced. Good, he said. And for once, the uncertainty didn't feel like a problem waiting to be solved. It felt like something worth living inside.